It's harder to see now that daylight is gone, but the storm damage across Putnam County is still here, and its effect on residents won't fade anytime soon. In fact, the mayor of Putnam County is calling this the saddest day in the county's history. Doors to Open Arena for the rally don't open until 4 o'clock this afternoon, but if you can see behind me, there are already plenty of people out here bundled up this morning, getting ready for tonight's event. Good morning, Claire. I am just hanging out here at a rest stop, but it clearly is not the weather for a picnic today. We have already seen some essential workers and, of course, security walking around the grounds here, just checking everything out. County officials are still hoping that the number of people that have voted early, either through mail-in ballots or in person over the last few weeks, will take some pressure off of today.
She has the right idea. She's still trying to sleep in a little bit longer, sleeping on the job. Alex, how dare you?
Today, you're going to have to start paying to park again, but you can feel good about it because while you're feeding the meter, you're helping feed people across the city. Only essential personnel will be allowed on the grounds throughout the meet, which is why I'm downtown this morning in front of the shop instead of actually at Keeneland. But that's okay because it's an example of how officials say they're making health and safety a priority. Catherine Holbrook has a love for thrifted fashion.
But I probably come here twice a week.
But you'll often see her picking up pieces.
Oh, that's pretty.
That normally wouldn't get a second look. And that's because she knows how to turn them into something new.
It's somebody else's trash that you get to make your treasure. You know what I mean?
At the beginning of last year, the mom of two with one on the way had two goals: find a new hobby and begin a debt-free journey with her family. With her sewing machine at her fingertips, she began refashioning inexpensive secondhand clothing and documenting her work on Instagram.
Truly, when I started my Instagram, it was just to have a creative outlet for myself. And I continually joke that I thought the only follower I would ever have is my mom and maybe like my closest friends.
But the interest grew, and she now has more than 5,000 followers eager to see her transformations. And she even lets her growing fan base help out.
I will get a vision for it, and then I'll go on Pinterest and I'll find a few options that are similar to the vision I have in my head, and then I let my friends choose which way to go.
Within a week, an oversized shirt becomes a one-of-a-kind top that you'd expect to come from a boutique. And she wants to help inspire others to take on a sewing hobby too.
I was thinking YouTube, maybe opening up a YouTube channel to teach people how to refashion. I'm just passionate about teaching this because it's so affordable, it's so ethical, and it's environmentally friendly.
Even though the fire, the initial call came in at 11:30 last night, it's still a very active scene about 2 miles up where the fire occurred on McCracken Pike. Now, this video you're about to see was taken around 8 o'clock this morning. Tall flames still burning where the barrel house once stood. And according to Beam Suntory, which owns the facility, the destroyed barrel house contained 45,000 barrels of, quote, relatively young whiskey. And a storage shed was also destroyed on the property. And as we talked about, the fire is still going, and crews have decided to let the flames die out naturally.
Because as the fire burns, the distilled spirits that are in the rubble and the debris pile, the distilled spirits are burning off with that. What that means is when they put water on it later to extinguish the fire, there'll be less contamination into Glens Creek, which is a tributary to the Kentucky River.
And it could still be several hours, maybe even into the evening, before the fire completely burns out. Look at this statue of Secretariat, a larger than life-size depiction fitting for the legendary status of this racehorse.
What an honor, you know, to have the project.
Secretariat never raced in Lexington, but he's here to stay, thanks to sculptor Jocelyn Russell. But she had plenty of help with this monument of the Triple Crown winner and jockey Ron Turcotte. She had input from several people who were familiar with the racehorse, like his vet and even Turcotte himself.
And to not do my due diligence and research would be a travesty. I really feel like it's my responsibility to do this justice.
The statue is the largest ever rendering of Secretariat, standing more than 11 feet tall and weighing around 3,800 pounds. And while Ron wasn't able to be at the unveiling, his brother was there.
And he's very proud of the job they did with it.
The statue will be displayed in the middle of the roundabout at Old Frankfort Pike and Alexandria Drive. Gaetan says it's special to see people care so many years later.
It's 40-some years after. How can that be? But it's with the accomplishments that they had. Ron had such a great career with Secretariat, breaking all the records.
The statue will be moved to its permanent location at the roundabout on Monday. Dr. Timothy Ainger, a clinical neuropsychologist with UK Healthcare, says that people often think of mental health and physical health as two separate entities, but in reality, they are both controlled by the same thing, the brain. So making that connection on how one affects the other can help us pinpoint a problem and find a solution.
When people are in a depressed state, they're showing a decreased physical energy sometimes, but that's a reflection of the decreased mental energy that they're having. And that can lead to less time spent exercising, less time and energy put forth into eating well, a weaker stress response. And these things sort of build into a downward negative spiral.
But it's a spiral that can be turned around. Let's look at some of the more obvious impacts first. A lack of energy leading to a lack of physical activity. This has been heightened by gym closures or the general fear of being exposed to the virus in a public place.
The guidelines suggest that we should be active for about 150 minutes every week, which is about 2.5 hours of moderate activity.
Dee Dlugansky with UK Sports Medicine Research Institute says this can be as simple as a brisk walk. She also says it's not just important to think about how we can be active, but how inactive we are while being at home.
Sedentary behavior has its whole host of risks that are associated with just sitting down too much. Even if we just start by standing up more, trying to stand up once an hour or once every half hour could really be helpful.
So even if you're feeling down and don't have the energy for an intense workout, literally simple steps can build up and make a difference. But the way our body reacts to stress isn't always that obvious.
Biochemically, what happens in the body when we're under stress and fatigue and exhaustion is we're running a loop on our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And it has this stress response of things that we want to happen when we're in high stress or tense environments. We want our pupils to dilate. We want our guts to inhibit digestion.
Dr. Ainger says COVID fatigue has put many of us in a prolonged state of stress, making the body's reactions occur over a long period of time. And that can make us more vulnerable to physical complications like hypertension, diabetes, or a weaker immune system. So even if you haven't noticed any physical health impacts over the last 8 months, that doesn't mean they don't exist. So in addition to finding any time to be active, it can help to talk openly with both a mental health and physical health professional. In Lexington, Alex Valverde, LEX 18 News.